Why would someone older than me listen to the Future Self podcast? Why would you tune into a 23-year-old talking about wisdom and ideas and perspectives and mindsets when he's 23? If you're 25 or 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 and above, why would you listen to me? Why? Welcome back to the Future Self podcast. Welcome to season 4, episode 26. Now you've tuned in yet again, so you know what we are sitting down and talking about together today. However, before we get into the episode, I just want to start with a punchline. Loyalty to an old self can be a betrayal to your current self. Now that's something we'll revisit later in this episode, but I just want to plant that seed in your mind that being loyal to a past version of you might be you betraying the version you are or wanting to become. Today's episode, I really felt it was important for us to talk about who you are is not who you have to continue being, and who you were is not who you have to stay. You do not have to stay as the person you once were. Some people really like tattoos, some people don't. I am an individual that puts a lot of significance on tattoos. Every single one on my body, if you were to ask me, so go on, down below in the comments, ask me. Every tattoo means something, from family to moments in my life, to representations of very important things. Now, some people like them, some people don't. And if you don't, no judgment. If you do, no judgment. However, the reason I talk about tattoos is I have this one on my left quad. So the right side, from those that are tuning in on YouTube that are seeing. And it says I am with a greater than symbol and a line through I was. That tattoo signifies I am greater right now than who I was. I've had a few conversations recently that at times I actually feel quite embarrassed to talk about my growth, my change in perception on certain beliefs, the things that matter to me, the way I am. Anyone who's a regular listener of the Future Self podcast knows my story, where it started. The event happened when I was 12 years old, and I'm a kid that was never interested in getting married or having kids. I was so set, solid, and certain on that, and now I've warmed up to it more and more, and it's actually something silently, now a little bit loudly as I'm talking to you, my favorite audience, that I'm getting more and more excited for. Now that's what I'm talking about when it comes to the embarrassment thing. And guys don't at me and say, oh, you shouldn't be embarrassed. And, you know, why is that perspective? And you should dive deeper. And why? Okay, I get it. I'm the person that asks why. I onion peel everything. I know why I get embarrassed. And it's because it's fast and drastic. The rate of growth I've had or have every 12 months, it's almost awkward to talk about, because one of my most enjoyable factors of life, although a burden and very tough at times, the biggest blessing and curse mixed into one is growing, learning, tuning into podcasts, reading books, becoming better, understanding the other perspective, becoming a better version of myself. But with that can bring fast growth. And fast growth can be a little awkward, a little bit tricky, because, you know, you really believed one thing and now you might not believe the same thing, or you see it different. Those that tuned in a year ago are now tuning in 12 months later. Wait, what? You used to advocate against this? Now you don't. You used to be so solid on this. Now you don't. My biggest vibe I have been running on the last 12 months is solid on who I am and fluid in how I move. Yet who you were is not who you have to continue being. We all know someone that has said, that is just who I am. That's just me. That's just what I do. Bullshit. That is just what you have cultivated as a story, maybe through experiences, maybe through just choices or developed beliefs, but you have created that. You have connected yourself to it, and you stay tied to that story of yourself. That's just who I am. What a scapegoat. What an easy way to say, this is a flaw of mine and I'm not willing to change it. I can't change it. It's not my responsibility. It's not my fault. But it is, because everything to do with you is your responsibility. You have a role and an impact on everything you and everything to do with you. So each time we say, that's just who I am, what we're doing is we're deflecting it to the side. I can't change it. It's not my fault. It is the byproduct of what I've been through. Fair enough. And trust me, guilty as charged. I am an individual for so long that said, that's just who I am. Take it or leave it. That's how I operate. That's what life has made me to be. So special now that I can reflect back on those moments and think, wow, that was a story I was telling myself. Who I was saying I was came from me, and I was the person with the pen narrating that story. Although, from my own perspective, it felt like someone else was writing my story. That's just what life's made me to be. Perfectionistic, high stress, steam train, valued, lavish lifestyle, working hard, always being better than others. The visions, businesses, private jets, penthouses. 1980s New York, Wall Street vibes. That was always a story I told myself. That's who I want to be. I want to be the imams. I want to be the other e-commerce style individuals on YouTube and Instagram that we all know about. The ones killing it, the ones leading, setting the tone. I don't want to be that anymore. I have learnt, and you're going to say this is corny, because to be honest, I think it's pretty corny. Money is nothing without an internal state you're happy and proud of. It's nothing without friends. It's nothing without family. Money without happiness holds no value. Money without connection holds nothing. Lavish things, designer brands, working hard, pushing, go, go, go. There's a quote Matthew McConaughey says that I cannot recite word for word, but he says, don't move so fast that you leave your mate behind. Now he's talking about intimate relationships on a very primal level, but don't be running so fast that you leave behind those that are walking, whether it's friends, family, colleagues. It's fine to move faster. It's fine to be quicker, jumping hurdles, falling over, getting up. But don't move so fast you leave everyone behind. Now this is tricky, right? There are those that came from a very hard childhood, very hard background. They need to leave people behind. There are those that could leave them behind, maybe could not. And there are those that don't really need to. And a recent theme and topic I'm sure you've all seen on the podcast is me seeing things I used to believe in a different light and not wanting to be alienated anymore. I have done so much self-development already that I'm so confident in my own self, I don't have to isolate anymore. The scale tips, and you need to tip the scale both sides in full extreme to be able to eventually balance in the middle. Getting back to it. Who you were is not who you have to be. I'm depressed. I'm anxious. I'm a loser. I'm someone people don't like. I can't. I'm not a capable human. That's just who I am. That's just the things I do. It's not true. It is not true only if you want to change it. But it totally depends on you. Some of the most extreme and amazing journeys I have been the coach leading that journey are changes of a human being from an old version story to a new version. From skinny and weak and self-sabotaging to strong and muscular and showing up for their future self. From trapped and caught in the loop of vices in a vicious cycle to not even going anywhere near those vices and showing up for their future self. From overweight, self-sabotage, binge eating, self-hatred into health, self-love, self-care, and showing up for their future self. From vaping and smoking and all this self-destruction on the weekend to fit, healthy, good, functioning heart, cardio system. Each of those is a complete rewire of who they were to who they are now. There's a conversation I have with a few of my clients around the idea of sobriety. A lot of the Alcohol Anonymous, the way they are set up is you go to a meeting and every meeting you say, "Hi, my name is X. I am a recovering alcoholic." Imagine that. Trying to detach, move on from, and to reduce its impact, but yet every day you're encouraged to look in the mirror or stand in front of a group and say, "I am an ex-alcoholic." Imagine the person who was overweight in school. They become fit, confident, they're really showing up for themselves, and yet we force them to look in the mirror and say, "I am X, I am a fat individual," or "I am a progressing fat individual." The way you speak and define yourself is what you become. So yes, if you've been anxious in the past and you continue to say, "I am an anxious human," you bet your ass you're staying an anxious human. The way we speak is what we think, and what we think is what we become. I feel anxiety changes the whole narrative from "I am an anxious person." I feel sad changes the whole narrative from "I am a sad person." I feel embarrassed and lacking self-confidence. That is totally different to "I am a person that lacks self-confidence. I'm an embarrassing human." So already in this time frame we've been speaking, the words you speak matter. And the way you speak it is what you will connect and attach to. Now, I'm a massive advocate against saying positive words of affirmation in the mirror. You don't wake up and say, "I'm a strong human," and believe you're a strong human. You need to prove through undeniable evidence that you can be a strong human, so then you are a strong human. But weirdly so, it's harder to build than it is to break apart. It's hard to build trust, and it's way easier to break it. It's hard to build safety, and it's way easier to break it. It's harder to build anything compared to what it is to break it. So it's hard to build the belief that you are a strong human. But if every day you wake up and say, "I'm weak," it breaks it. Yes, it takes undeniable evidence to prove you're strong, and it takes a sentence said consistently to form a belief. That belief impact your actions, and those actions define who you are. When I was doing a little bit of research and note writing for this episode, I came across what it is that we tell ourselves. It's called a self-narrative. You're narrating your own self. And what that means is a self-narrative is a story a person tells himself and others about their life and identity, shaping their understanding of who they are and how they fit into the world. There might be two individuals with the same level of confidence. One says they're a confident individual, one says they lack confidence. The person that says they're a confident individual will come across as a more confident individual. They will thrive more from the impact of confidence because of how they approach it. Now, it's not a trend that what you speak is who you become or it impacts your life. What you believe really changes who you are. But if for so long you have said the negative, I am the lack of, yeah, it feels a little bit corny and silly to start waking up and say, I am the positive. That's not what I'm getting at. I don't want you to watch this whole episode start to finish, leave it, wake up the next day if you're someone who always focuses on the negative or the lack of what you are, and then start saying, I am strong, I am capable, I am this. It's not that. Unfortunately, you become based on the evidence you stack for yourself. Confidence, kindness, trust, love, understanding. You can't speak words with those things. You have to show action, and action builds evidence, and evidence then solidifies that. But yes, unfortunately with the negative bias, if you continue to operate down that lens, you stay as that individual. You see it so often, and I'm sure in your hometown, there's the consistent old alcoholics at the pub, or the consistent person who smoked their whole life, or the older individual that always seems depressed and pessimistic, because they have probably connected and attached to a story they told themselves. I always link everything back to, if you had 6 months left to live, what would you change? Sometimes we go through life, we're so stressed that we totally just become on autopilot and forget that you have 100 years, give or take. That's it. A one-round trip. You don't get to do it again. You don't get to resurrect your mistakes in the next life. You have one go. This is where so much internal frustration for me comes from, where that understanding of one round trip is just not understood. So we tell ourselves we're this, we don't take that chance, we don't take that risk, we don't change that job, we don't get out of that toxic relationship, we don't enter the new potentially amazing relationship. We just go blasé and numb through life. Things are okay, they're good enough. In what world is good enough something you'd want to settle for in an experience you get one go at? Now, when I was riding here on my bike, because I'm still in Bali, as you know, this is the same studio I've been using for a little bit, I was having a thought. Why would someone older than me listen to the Future Self podcast? Why would you tune into a 23-year-old talking about wisdom and ideas and perspectives and mindsets when he's 23? If you're 25 or 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 and above, why would you listen to me? Why? And I was really thinking of it. It's hard to defend age being a defining factor. I remember when I first started coaching, I was 16, and I used to say to the gym owner, I don't want anyone to know my age. Don't put it on the website. Don't tell anyone. Because I knew people wouldn't give me a go. If you're 30 looking for a PT, in what world would you work with someone who's been on this earth for 16 years? Yet I had so much knowledge, passion, and wisdom already around the whole topics of coaching at that time. Not like I do now, but for a 16-year-old, I was killing it in that department. And I don't think age is a defining factor of wisdom. I think, yes, age does bring, the length of time you've been alive does bring a certain type of wisdom that you can't fast track or gain. Often it's called experience. But I talk to older individuals that act through their emotions like a 10-year-old, or they think like a 15-year-old, or the way they navigate their life, their health, their beliefs is as an 18-year-old. The age doesn't define that. I think the person who sources to critically think, to take ownership, to learn more, to dive deeper, to see things for more than what you just initially see it as, that's why you would tune into someone younger than you. I am a lot of what I am because of my parents, but I teach my parents something almost every second day. I teach both my older sisters something almost every second day. I coach one of my older sisters and she's learning from me every single day. I give advice and insights to my grandparents and they take it on so well. I coach maybe 5 people younger than me out of my whole client base. And they're all tuning into someone younger, but life's been unfair a little bit in certain ways. So that's fast-tracked a bit of wisdom, a bit of experience, and a bit of understanding. During my research for this episode, there was someone I stumbled upon, Erik Erikson. He created the 8 stages of life. Now, we're not going to talk about it, but that's your homework. After you get off this episode 26, type in Erik Erikson, the 8 stages of life, and understand the 8 different times you operate through, the lenses you're looking through, what those periods of your life would bias towards. Of course, you can't be who you once were if there's 8 different stages to life. So you either type it into ChatGPT or just type it into Google. Now, I thought it'd be really interesting because I've been using AI quite a lot recently. It helps so much. And if I have just a troubled moment, if I want to be called out, if I can't see the other perspective, I'll type into ChatGPT, hey, this is my viewpoint. What's the opposing viewpoint? Or why do I understand this and the other person doesn't? And it's just a great little insight. And you're not going to take AI for the helping hand to save your life, but it can spark a little bit of perspective to the opposing side. So what I want to do is put a question into ChatGPT and tell you what it comes up with. The question. Today I am talking in a podcast about all things who you have been is not who you have to be forever. What are some good points to cover? And what it comes up with. 8 different points. The myth of a fixed identity. Growth is not betrayal. Permission to evolve. Letting go of labels. Identity and environment. Navigating pushback. Reinvention is a skill. Tools for transformation. Success stories. But the one I really liked when I was doing the research for this episode is growth is not a betrayal. I agree with that. Growing is not betraying, but I think betrayal is not growing. Like I said at the start of the episode, what was the sentence that I prefaced? Loyalty to an old self can be betraying your current self. So yes, growing is not betrayal, but by not growing, you could be betraying your version of now. A lot of the time, who we become and the way we operate is a combination of survival mechanisms. We are like a defense organism. The human brain and spine is designed to protect us. Our CNS is designed to protect us. So that means that a lot of our life is learning, going through experiences and being kept protected. Surviving is not thriving. The fact that you're an avoidant attachment style is a survival mechanism, but you do not thrive from staying that. Being an anxious individual might be survival mechanisms, but you don't thrive staying as an anxious individual. What you've been given through the experiences of what you've been through your life, you've been given those. It is up to you whether you evolve them, whether you change them, whether you rewrite the story. If you think if you're not someone who critically thinks you haven't done much progressive work, yes, you've grown as a human, but you've never really properly gone into it. You've never taken ownership of you, your role, why you are the way you are. You're just a combination of survival mechanisms. So yes, the anxiety, the depression, the stress, outside of the chemical imbalances and those things, but all that negativity you feel, the lack of energy, the bed rotting, the doom scrolling, the not chasing your dreams, the settling for mediocrity, the it's good enough, the I'm too scared to change, the settling for that partner. Survival mechanisms. Self-development work is such a bitch at times. I say it to all my clients, it's the best blessing, but the biggest curse. As you do self-development work, you might notice you feel depths of darkness deeper than ever before, but that is because you feel peaks of heightness more than you have in your life. There's always this scale rating. The person that can feel 10 in the positive can feel 10 in the negative. They're never really high, but they're never really low. The person that does the work to feel 100 in the positive also can feel 100 in the negative. Why? Because their range of what they can experience in positivity and positive outcomes, also then they can feel in negative outcomes. If you felt the best you've ever felt in your life, when that goes, you'll feel the worst you've ever felt in your life because your range increases. And that's the cost. Like the cost of being good at anything is being bad at it initially. The cost of feeling better is also understanding the opportunity to feel worse increases too. However, as you get better, you learn more. And as you learn more, you know everything is fleeting and nothing is forever. A bad moment is a bad moment. A good moment is a good moment. After every low comes a high, but after every high comes a low. But again, after every low comes a high. So yes, we might admire the person that's always kind of happy, but never really sad. But why would you want to feel that range when you could feel the peak of the peak, the absolute best? And yeah, you might feel the absolute worst, but they say that without rain, you don't appreciate the sunshine. So without this low, you don't appreciate the high as much. That's why the person with the shorter range, never really high, never really low. Who you have been before is not who you have to be. Now, I have made so many mistakes in my life. I made a lot of mistakes in a past relationship I was a part of, and I have been, unfortunately, defined a lot for those mistakes, which sucks. Called things that weren't true, called things that were true, labeled as this and known for just that. Now, it's not just that relationship. I've made mistakes in business, in coaching, in places I've worked at with other friends as a kid in high school, but that's not who I am. One of the greatest analogies I like to give that's so basic is the teacher that says 9 multiplication times tables right, but 1 wrong. They'll be laughed at for that 1 wrong. Think about that for the moment. They said 9 things right, but the whole class is laughing at them for the 1 thing they said wrong. So that means they're being held to the standard of the thing they got wrong. That's why the fear of judgment, the fear of failure is so high these days, because you do 10 things right and you do 1 thing wrong and you're held to that 1 thing. Being cancelled, the cancel culture, you might do years and years and years of the most amazing work and you do 1 mistake and you're ripped to shreds for that 1 mistake. Like I said, it's harder to build things than what it is to tear them apart. This episode could go forever if I was to give the personal insights of who I was to who I am now. But it's from a kid that was bad at communicating, didn't want to hear feedback, didn't want the opinions and projections of others. I can't hear you, I can't see you. Steam train, forwards, forwards, forwards. Self-protection, nothing gets in the way of me or work. It's only ever work. No kids, no marriage. Nothing matters but work, lavish lifestyle. I want to be this pinnacle person. I don't care who comes with me. I'm leaving you behind. Friends or family, whatever. There's no value. I need to move forwards. Now, if you're a regular listener of this amazing podcast, you'll know I've had in the past an intense fear of failure and where that stems from. And that's a lot of the reason as to why I would act in those ways. But boy, the person I am now, is my walking resume that backs this episode that who I am now is greater than who I was. I adore who I've been because he is the reason I am who I am today. But I can let that kid go. I can let that version go. The mistakes, the caught in the wrong crowds, the doing the wrong things, the drinking, the drugs, the self-sabotage, the self-hatred, the bad relationships, the bad friends, the being a bad friend, the self-sabotage and self-destruction, all the things you maybe have done or are doing now does not have to be who you continue to be. It's only going to change if you are willing to not keep defining yourself by the story that you say to your own self. If you go through life saying that you're depressed, that you're a nobody, you're no good, you're a loser, you suck, you're not capable, you're embarrassing, yeah, that's the story you're going to run. The movie needs a script, and if you're writing that script, the scenes are going to play out exactly as those themes and dynamics. Change takes time, and change is really hard. But it's always there. You are always able to change. Always. I've been trying to keep a few shorter episodes because I notice, at least personally, when I listen to a podcast or I see a podcast that's an hour to 3 hours long, it's just too much. 100 things are said, you might remember 2 points. And hopefully you've gained those points already within this episode. I just want to leave you on a few points. Now, I've already given you your homework. Erik Erikson, you need to type him up, the 8 stages of life. I've also given you a call to action. Challenge me what each of these tattoos means. Ask in the comments, and I'll give you the full debrief and description of the significance that they hold. But for episode 26, what can we do to change in this life? These are a few points that I'm not going to elaborate on. I'm going to say them as sentences. I'm going to wrap up this episode. And I'm going to leave them with you for you to sit on. The way you take it and the perspective you see of it, that's up to you. But these are some points I want to leave you on, that who you were is not who you have to continue being. And who you've been in the past does not define who you are right now. Learn ownership, your roles in your wins, suffering, and being held back. That can change the narrative. Clearly know your values and compare to your current actions and habits. What are your values versus what are the ways you are acting? Be clear on your values. Differentiate values from action. See if they align, and if they don't, change it. Sit down and write out who you truly think you could be. From there, see what parts of who you are now will help you get there and what parts need to change. Writing tasks are amazing. So sit down, write out who you are and who you dream to be. Then based from that, what do you do now that serves that goal? And what do you need to change to become that person? The brand of the podcast, the mission, future self. Act as the version now that has the things you dream and does what that dream version does. Be that person now to create your life to become exactly on the pathway that leads to the person. Future self. Show up now for that future version. Expose yourself to new perspectives from books and podcasts. Agree or disagree with their points. If you agree, it gives you validation for what you think and believe. If you disagree, why do you disagree? And if you disagree strongly, put yourself in a position to understand their perspective. How do they get there? Why do they believe that? And how is that a perspective that is beneficial? Remember, the world is not what it is what we see it as and make it to be. My perspective isn't right over yours. But what's right is my perspective and also understanding yours too. The middle. A critical thinker sees both sides and the middle. A repeat of what I said before. Realize we have a maximum of 100 years on this earth. Once those years are gone, we're all gone. So how do you really want to spend it? If you tuned in on YouTube, there's always so much love and appreciation for you. Drop the comment, do the homework. If you tuned in on Spotify, you know I always appreciate you so much. That is episode 26 of the Future Self podcast. Big love, always for your future self, and I'll see you in the next one.